What commenced as a straightforward stop to replenish his vehicle's fuel tank escalated into a confrontation, meticulously recorded by multiple cameras. The officer who approached him asserted that he was recovering a vehicle that had been reported stolen. This same vehicle had been legitimately purchased and registered by the judge several years prior. Within mere minutes, this unfounded accusation would spark one of the most contentious official inquiries the state had witnessed in a full decade. Before we delve any deeper, kindly indicate your geographical location in the comments below, and ensure you subscribe, as tomorrow's narrative is one you absolutely will not want to miss. The body-worn camera that documented this encounter was in the possession of Officer Mark Reich, a patrol officer recognized throughout Brookside County for his assertive traffic stops. Officer Reich had cultivated a reputation for his proactive policing methods, a term he frequently employed to legitimize pulling over drivers whom he suspected did not seem to belong in upscale vehicles or affluent neighborhoods. On that particular evening, he was traversing a stretch of Highway 19, with his windows slightly lowered, meticulously scrutinizing every passing car with the same intensity he would employ during investigations of serious felonies. As his patrol car glided past the gas station, Officer Reich decelerated, his gaze fixed intently on the dark, luxurious SUV parked at pump number 4. The officer's demeanor instantly transformed. His hands tightened around the steering wheel, and his eyes narrowed as he focused on the individual standing beside the fuel pump. The individual was Judge Nathaniel Briggs, who was 53 years of age. He was a judge of the state, widely respected for his placid disposition and his extensive legal experience spanning many years. He was not on duty at the time. He was not in a courtroom. He was not wearing his judicial robe. He was simply refilling his vehicle's fuel tank after departing his chambers somewhat later than usual. Even in this casual setting, he maintained the same composed bearing. His posture was erect, his movements deliberate, and his focus quiet as he secured the fuel cap. Judge Briggs initially did not perceive the approaching patrol cruiser. Not until Officer Reich executed a sharp turn into the station and parked diagonally, occupying 2 parking spaces, thereby obstructing the front bumper of the SUV. This sudden maneuver prompted the judge to glance upward, his eyebrows rising slightly, not with apprehension, but with a subtle sense of bewilderment. Officer Reich exited his vehicle with an air of confidence that suggested he believed he had apprehended someone red-handed. He did not introduce himself. He did not pose a question. He did not even observe Judge Briggs's actions. He simply stared at the opulent SUV and slowly shook his head, as if something was amiss. "Sir, step away from the vehicle," Officer Reich called out, advancing closer. Judge Briggs blinked, taken aback by the officer's tone. "Is there an issue, officer?" Instead of offering a response, Officer Reich proceeded to circle the SUV as though he had stumbled upon pilfered property, abandoned in plain sight. He lightly ran his palm across the hood, checking for residual heat, then bent down to examine the license plates. The judge observed him with meticulous attention, his normally serene expression tightening subtly. "I will require you to keep your hands where I can observe them," Officer Reich added, his voice now amplified. "We have received reports of a vehicle matching this description being implicated in multiple instances of theft." Judge Briggs exhaled audibly through his nose. "This vehicle, officer." Officer Reich interrupted him. "Where did you obtain this car?" The question was not posed in a casual or inquisitive manner. It carried an underlying presumption that the man standing before him could not possibly be the owner. Judge Briggs instantly recognized that particular tone. He had encountered it in numerous cases over which he had presided, typically emanating from officers with a similar disposition. Nevertheless, he elected to respond calmly. "I purchased it 3 years ago, and it is registered in my name. The insurance documentation is located within the glove compartment." "Is that so?" Officer Reich tilted his head, clearly unconvinced. "May I examine it?" Judge Briggs's brow furrowed. "Do you possess probable cause to conduct a search of my vehicle?" Officer Reich offered a slight smirk. "Yes, you are standing next to a car that does not belong to you." The judge slowly uncrossed his arms, remaining steady and collected. Internally, however, the shift in the officer's demeanor confirmed what he had already suspected. This was not a misapprehension. It was not a routine inquiry. This was profiling, subtle at first, but becoming progressively more evident with each passing moment. A gas station attendant discreetly peered out from behind the glass door as the officer's voice escalated in volume. Judge Briggs noted the attendant's gaze, and so too did Officer Reich. However, while the judge harbored a hope that the presence of onlookers might de-escalate the situation, the officer appeared to grow more agitated. Officer Reich moved even closer. "I will require your identification now." Judge Briggs offered a slight nod and carefully reached for his wallet. "I am not refusing. I am cooperating, but I would appreciate understanding the reason for this stop." "Because," Officer Reich snapped, "this vehicle was reported stolen just 15 minutes ago." Judge Briggs's eyes narrowed. He knew this assertion to be impossible. He had been situated in the downtown parking lot, reviewing case files throughout that entire period. "Who filed that report?" Judge Briggs inquired. Officer Reich offered no reply. Instead, he placed a hand on the handle of the SUV's door, as if anticipating it would unlock at his touch. It did not. Judge Briggs had secured the vehicle out of habit. He gave the handle another tug. "Unlock it." "No," Judge Briggs responded firmly. "You do not possess the legal right to search it." The palpable tension intensified. The overhead lights emitted a low hum. A customer in another section of the lot slowed their pace, sensing an unfolding incident. Officer Reich observed the growing attention and lowered his voice, but not his aggressive stance. "We can handle this amicably, or we can handle it the hard way," he warned. "And I am telling you, you're making a serious error." The officer's eyes flashed with evident frustration, and for the very first time, the judge sensed the distinct possibility that this interaction might escalate far beyond a mere request for documentation. The parking lot seemed to grow heavier, the overhead lights buzzing as if they were silent witnesses themselves. Officer Reich moved in even closer, closing the remaining distance between them. His hand hovered just above his holster, not touching it, but positioned closely enough to convey a clear message. Judge Briggs remained motionless. He did not raise his voice. He simply maintained his ground, returning the officer's intense stare, who now appeared determined to propel this encounter into a perilous territory. And it was at that precise moment that everything irrevocably shifted. From an external perspective, it appeared to be a strained conversation. However, the footage captured by the body camera, in conjunction with the security recordings from the gas station, revealed a different reality. Officer Mark Reich's deliberate alteration of his posture was evident. His chin lifted, his shoulders squared, and the hand that hovered near his holster was not an involuntary reflex. It was a calculated tactic, designed to intimidate, intended to establish dominance before any further questions were posed. Judge Nathaniel Briggs did not retreat. He simply met Officer Reich's unwavering gaze, his typically composed expression gradually hardening as the officer leaned within inches of his face. Officer Reich broke the ensuing silence first. "Sir, I am affording you one final opportunity. Unlock the vehicle." Judge Briggs gave a single, decisive shake of his head. "You have no legal grounds to search my vehicle." Instead of offering a verbal response, Officer Reich thumbed the radio clipped to his shoulder. "Dispatch, this is Unit 12, confirming a suspected stolen vehicle at the Highway 19 gas stop, requesting backup." His voice was steady and confident, as though he were reporting a verifiable fact, not a fabrication he had conjured at that moment. And on the recorded footage, the judge's reaction was clearly discernible. Not fear, but profound disbelief. He was acutely aware of the gravity of submitting a false report, and he also recognized that the officer was not even making a pretense of verification. The gas station premises grew noticeably quieter as nearby patrons sensed that something significant was transpiring. A woman at pump number 6 retreated into her vehicle, observing the scene from behind her windshield. A gentleman en route to the convenience store paused, uncertain whether to proceed. Even the attendant behind the counter leaned closer to the window, his eyes wide with curiosity. Judge Briggs kept his hands visible, his palms open at his sides. "Officer Reich, I am asking you once more. What leads you to believe this vehicle has been stolen?" Officer Reich circled the SUV a second time, tapping the roof with one hand as he walked. "Because individuals do not simply drive vehicles of this caliber around this vicinity without some underlying irregularity. It was not based on evidence. It was not a suspicion predicated on observable behavior. It was a pure and unadulterated assumption, documented, recorded, and time-stamped. The judge's eyes followed the officer's movements around the SUV. That is not probable cause. That is profiling. Officer Reich completely disregarded the judge's statement. He crouched down to inspect the vehicle identification number plate through the windshield, squinting as if anticipating the discovery of a scratch or a discrepancy. He found nothing. Nevertheless, he did not withdraw. "You stated your name was?" Officer Reich inquired, still scrutinizing the car. "You have not yet requested my name," Judge Briggs replied. "Then provide it." Judge Briggs extended his ID wallet. Officer Reich snatched it without offering a word of thanks, flipping it open. For a fleeting moment his eyebrows twitched upward by a minuscule margin when he saw the designation, the Honorable Nathaniel Briggs. This reaction was not due to immediate recognition of the judge, but rather because the word honorable typically signified an official capacity, a position of importance. However, instead of acknowledging this revelation, he returned the ID as if it held no validity. "That still does not confirm the vehicle is yours." Judge Briggs inhaled slowly. "My registration and insurance are located within the glove compartment. You are welcome to examine them, but only if you acknowledge that your search is conducted with my explicit consent, not under duress." Officer Reich scoffed. "Do not attempt to instruct me on procedural matters." The tone was not merely disrespectful, it was mocking. It was the type of voice used when addressing someone presumed to be ignorant of the law, someone presumed to be easily manipulated. A distant siren began to grow progressively louder. Backup was en route. The judge's shoulders stiffened. "Officer, you are exacerbating a situation that did not necessitate escalation." "No," he retorted. "You escalated it when you falsely claimed ownership of this vehicle." Blink, blink. "Precisely what have I falsely claimed?" Officer Reich offered no response. Instead, he placed his hand directly on the SUV's door handle once more and applied a firm tug. It remained locked. He tried again. Nothing. "Unlock it," he demanded. "No," Judge Briggs replied, "not without proper justification." The approaching siren intensified until a second patrol cruiser entered the lot, its tires crunching audibly on the gravel. Officer Jansen disembarked, taller and more robust than Officer Reich, and visibly younger. He approached expeditiously, his gaze shifting between the two men. "What is the situation?" Officer Jansen inquired. Officer Reich did not hesitate. "Potentially stolen vehicle. Driver is being uncooperative." The judge turned his attention to the second officer. "I have provided identification. I have offered my documentation. I have declined an unlawful search." Officer Jansen looked at Officer Reich, then at the SUV, and then back at the judge. His expression remained unreadable, but he moved closer to Officer Reich's side, not the judge's. Now 2 officers were present, 2 sets of eyes observing, 2 presumptions being made. "Sir," Officer Jansen stated firmly, "step away from the vehicle." "I am already away," Judge Briggs responded. "What further action do you require?" Officer Reich raised a hand. "We require you to be detained until we can verify ownership." The word detained hung heavily in the air. The judge's jaw tightened. "You have no grounds to detain me." "We shall see about that," Officer Reich muttered. A small assembly of onlookers had now gathered, approximately 3 or 4 individuals lingering at the periphery of the lot, their phones extended, quietly recording. On the screen, the body camera captured every detail. The ambient buzzing of the lights, the palpable tension, the slow encircling movements of the officers. It also captured the precise moment Officer Reich reached for a pair of handcuffs attached to his belt. Judge Briggs observed the gesture. He took a step backward, not in an aggressive manner, but as a defensive action. "Officer, you are making a grave mistake." Officer Reich advanced regardless, his hands still positioned near the handcuffs. "And you are resisting." "I am not resisting," Judge Briggs stated sharply. "I am standing still and asserting my rights." The moment resonated across the asphalt, punctuated by the metallic click of handcuffs, the subtle shift in the second officer's stance, and the low murmurs of witnesses who now understood they were not observing a routine traffic stop. They were witnessing a serious procedural error unfolding, and in the ensuing seconds the situation would cross a boundary from which neither officer could retreat. The instant Officer Reich reached for the handcuffs, the tension at Pump 4 snapped like an overstretched wire. Spectators edged closer to the parking lot's perimeter, their phones still recording as the air grew thick with disbelief. The hum of the overhead lights mingled with the distant drone of traffic on Highway 19, but every gaze was fixed upon the officer preparing to detain a man who had not moved an inch. Judge Nathaniel Briggs kept his hands visible, his voice unwavering. "Officer, you're attempting to detain the lawful owner of this vehicle." Officer Reich did not pause. He stepped forward again, handcuffs dangling from his fingers. "Place your hands behind your back." The judge did not comply, but he also did not resist. He lifted his chin slightly, adopting the same posture he used on the bench when issuing admonishments. "This has proceeded too far. Before you continue, you should be aware of whom you are detaining." Officer Reich narrowed his eyes, a hint of amusement in his expression. "I do not care whom you claim to be." Judge Briggs reached into the inner pocket of his coat, performing the action slowly and deliberately, and withdrew a leather ID case. He opened it and held it out squarely between them. The gold emblem gleamed beneath the gas station's illumination. Officer Jansen was the first to notice it. His expression transformed instantaneously. His eyes widened, his posture straightened, and his mouth tightened around an inhaled breath he had not anticipated taking. Officer Reich glanced at the ID, and for the first time his assuredness faltered. The badge contained within bore a title that instantly dispelled all assumptions, all doubt, and all the specious claims he had relayed into his radio: the Honorable Nathaniel Briggs, State Superior Court Judge. The officer froze mid-stride. "You are a judge." Judge Briggs did not move the badge. "And you are violating multiple rights on camera." For several lengthy seconds, Officer Reich stood immobile, the weight of the revelation crashing upon him. His hand slowly lowered the handcuffs, but the body camera clearly recorded the tremor in his fingers, not from fear, but from the sudden comprehension that everything he had done was now meticulously documented against an individual possessing the authority to challenge it at the highest echelons. Officer Jansen shifted uncomfortably beside him. "Sir, we were unaware." Judge Briggs interrupted him. "You are not required to know my title to treat me lawfully." The word struck with more impact than any badge could, and the camera bore witness to the entire exchange. Officer Jansen swallowed. Officer Reich blinked rapidly. Both officers suddenly appeared uncertain about their subsequent course of action. The judge closed his ID wallet. "Now I expect to depart without any further harassment." Officer Reich cleared his throat. "We were merely performing our duties." "No," Judge Briggs responded, his tone becoming noticeably sharper. "You manufactured a transgression where none existed." A soft murmur rippled through the small assembly of witnesses. One individual stepped forward slightly. "I have recorded everything," the man stated. "If you require a copy," Judge Briggs nodded once. "Thank you." And that simple exchange, calm, quiet, and respectful, seemed to disconcert Officer Reich even further. He turned toward the man. "This is an active investigation. Cease recording." The witness did not lower his phone. "This is a public place." Another blow to Officer Reich's perceived authority. Another moment captured on film. The tension dissolved, not through overt conflict, but through sheer exposure. Everything was now preserved on video. Not only the gas station's surveillance cameras, but also the body-worn camera footage, witnesses' mobile phones, and even a street corner security camera pointed directly at the fuel pumps. The officers receded, establishing a physical distance they should have maintained from the outset. With slow, deliberate movements, Judge Nathaniel Briggs returned to his SUV, opened the driver's side door, and retrieved the registration and insurance documents, the very papers he had offered earlier, long before the situation escalated. He handed them to Officer Jansen. "Verify them now." Officer Jansen perused the documents. The details matched perfectly. The SUV was not stolen. There had never been a report filed. There had never been any justification for stopping him. Officer Jansen exhaled and returned the papers. "Everything is valid." Judge Briggs did not smile, did not celebrate, and did not exhibit any triumphant demeanor. He simply stated, "I am aware." Officer Reich avoided direct eye contact. His jaw twitched. "You are free to leave." Judge Briggs stared at him for a moment, then spoke with the same authoritative tone he employed from his judicial bench. "Officer Reich, I strongly advise you to meticulously document your actions this evening. You will be required to recount them under oath." The officer's shoulders sagged. Judge Briggs entered his SUV and closed the door. The engine hummed to life. The assembled crowd watched silently as he drove away. His departure was smooth and composed, a stark contrast to the residual chaos left behind. However, the narrative did not conclude at pump number 4. The subsequent morning, footage captured by witnesses began circulating across social media, initially on a local level, then spreading statewide. Subsequently, national news outlets seized upon the story. News anchors replayed the gas station confrontation frame by frame, meticulously dissecting the officer's statements, cross-referencing them with the real-time audio from the body camera, and questioning how a routine refueling had devolved into an unlawful detention. Civil rights attorneys initiated contact before midday. Community leaders vociferously demanded accountability. The state's Judicial Oversight Board issued a formal statement in support of Judge Briggs. Even members of the law enforcement community expressed their profound concern regarding the incident. Within 48 hours, an official investigation into Officer Mark Reich's conduct was formally initiated. This investigation delved far deeper than a single night's encounter. Patterns began to emerge: past complaints, undocumented stops, and multiple accusations of targeting drivers who did not appear to possess the means to afford their vehicles. And with each new revelation, public pressure mounted. 5 days following the gas station confrontation, Judge Nathaniel Briggs formally filed a lawsuit seeking $13.8 million in damages for unlawful detention, racial profiling, infliction of emotional distress, and violation of his constitutional rights. The filing was not ostentatious or dramatic. It was measured, precise, and substantiated by evidence derived from surveillance cameras, eyewitness testimonies, and even the officer's own recorded statements. And upon its reception by the county, one fact became unequivocally clear: the true battle was only just beginning. Following the judge's calm yet firm request for a supervisor, the atmosphere within the small gas station lot underwent a transformation. What had begun as an aggressive confrontation was now evolving into something else entirely: an exposure. And Officer Dalton was acutely aware of this shift. His body language visibly altered the moment he grasped that every second of his conduct had been recorded, not only by his own body camera, but now also by the station's surveillance systems and the judge's mobile phone. Moments later, a second police cruiser arrived. The supervisor, Lieutenant Harris, emerged with a composed demeanor, as if he had already received the dispatch call and understood that something was amiss. He first regarded Officer Dalton, then the judge, and finally the luxurious SUV, and the scene itself conveyed the narrative. The judge did not raise his voice. He did not gesticulate wildly. He simply recounted the events that had transpired, step by deliberate step, in the same measured tone he employed from his courtroom. As he spoke, Dalton's justifications began to unravel. His claims of probable cause, the accusation of a stolen vehicle, and even the initial reason for approaching the judge, none of these aligned with departmental protocols. Lieutenant Harris's expression tightened as he listened intently. Then came the pivotal moment. The lieutenant walked around the vehicle, using his tablet to scan the license plate. Seconds later, the screen displayed a green confirmation. Name match verified. Registered owner, Judge Marcus Holloway. Lieutenant Harris exhaled slowly, then turned his attention to Dalton. The tone he adopted was not loud, but it was far more cutting than any shouting could ever be. "Dalton, inside the cruiser now." Dalton hesitated for only a fleeting instant, but he complied. The door closed behind him with a final, resonant thud. With the officer removed from the immediate vicinity, the lieutenant extended a direct apology to the judge. It was not a rehearsed or perfunctory apology. It was the kind of apology offered by someone who fully comprehended the potentially damaging ramifications of this interaction, not only for the department, but also for the judge's dignity, his reputation, and his personal safety. Unbeknownst to either of them at the time, a witness had discreetly recorded the entire event and promptly shared the video online. Within 3 hours, the clip garnered 200,000 views, and by dawn the following day, it had surpassed 1.6 million. The public was not merely displeased, their reaction was fierce and unyielding. The department was inundated with calls, the courthouse overflowed with messages, and reporters camped outside both premises, demanding answers. For Dalton, any remaining justifications were insufficient to shield him. The judge, however, did not resort to public condemnation or broadcast statements. Instead, he initiated legal proceedings with quiet professionalism, armed with irrefutable evidence. The lawsuit cited racial discrimination, illegal confinement, and gross negligence. Then came the staggering figure that sent shockwaves through the city: $13.8 million. The department was expected to contest the claim and engage in a protracted legal dispute. However, upon reviewing the footage, noting the delayed activation of the body camera, and observing the judge's pre-existing court documents, the city attorneys recognized that challenging Dalton's assertion of suspicious behavior was no longer viable. 3 months later, the department agreed to a settlement. Yet, the resolution of this incident extended beyond the financial compensation. Dalton was terminated from his position. Harris was tasked with overseeing a comprehensive retraining program for an entire division. At the gas station where the incident unfolded, a small plaque was placed above pump number 6, informing customers that their surveillance system now captures audio and video in high definition around the clock, underscoring that accountability should not rely on mere chance. The judge resumed his judicial duties with quiet dignity, foregoing any sensational interviews or declarations of victory. He re-entered his courtroom with the same composed authority he possessed the evening prior to the encounter, but now he carried something more potent than indignation: validation. Proof that even in an ordinary moment, like refueling a vehicle late at night, prejudice can transform a routine experience into a perilous situation. Proof that documentation is a safeguard. Proof that standing firm, despite apprehension, can catalyze systemic change. In the concluding moments documented in the city's official report, the judge articulated a single sentence that encapsulated the essence of the confrontation's revelations. "I was not seeking conflict, I was seeking respect." His voice remained steady, his demeanor unclouded, as he simply stated the truth that millions had now witnessed firsthand. This truth would continue to compel departments across the region to reform, retrain, and re-evaluate their understanding of justice long after the financial settlement was finalized. For sometimes the most impactful courtroom in existence is a gas station lot, illuminated by a solitary overhead lamp and a camera that steadfastly remains operational. If you believe that every individual warrants equitable treatment irrespective of their identity, please subscribe to our channel, as narratives like this are vital to be disseminated.